Today on Rappler, President Aquino admits he asked former Interior Undersecretary Puno to resign. Albay Representative Lagman announces new amendments to the Reproductive Health Bill. And South Korea begins a military exercise next week to counter threats from North Korea. Hello, I'm Maria Ressa. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. President Benigno Aquino tells Rappler about his priorities and values, talking about how he makes decisions. Answering charges he favors his friends, he says he asked former Undersecretary Rico Puno to resign. Natasha Gutierrez reports. To anyone?
Only to the people.
President Benigno Aquino says pushing for the impeachment of former Chief Justice Renato Corona is one of the most difficult decisions of his presidency.
Feeling is because in many ways you staked your entire presidency on the impeachment trial of former Chief Justice Renato Corona.
It would be dishonest for me to say that that was really one of the focal battles for changing the status quo. Yeah. And the status quo has benefited several vested interests who would be worried and would have the fear of the unknown.
And while he scorns the patronage system that put Corona in power, he has been protective of friends he installed in office. Until his interview with Rappler, the palace said little about what triggered the resignation of DILG Undersecretary Rico Puno, the president's shooting buddy.
Exactly what is he being accused of, for instance, the Manila hostage crisis.
Yes.
He performed all of the roles that I asked of him, and the major issue had to deal with somebody who was given a set of orders, who said yes sir, and proceeded to do something else.
And also, I mean,
but that wasn't Rico Puno, no. And the person who I tasked to monitor this other officer didn't perform as good a job of supervising him as was expected.
You didn't ask him to resign, did you?
I told him that I said, your family might undergo again a lot of the stress because they can't get at me. They'll get to me through you, which means a lot of issues again with your mother who's not young, with your wife, with your children, etc. And perhaps you've already done enough.
Yes. The president has often been criticized for his personalistic approach to appointing officials, picking from a narrow field of ex-colleagues, buddies who share his hobbies, and classmates. The same principle was at work in the appointment of Maria Lourdes Sereno as Chief Justice.
Well, there was somebody else that I also wanted to be there but wasn't on the short list. No? But I interviewed most of the candidates, I think 6 of the 8.
Yes.
And at the risk of being impolitic, I wasn't happy with the responses they gave to certain questions.
The president says he got better vibes from Sereno than the other equally qualified candidate he was eyeing for Chief Justice.
I also had to develop vibes, for want of a better word.
Yes.
Somebody comes into a room, you should be able to tell whether you can trust this person or not.
Correct.
Only in my love life is that deficient.
Aquino says his vision for the country goes back to the lessons he learned during his early years as a politician. He recalls being told by a woman who lived by the railroad tracks.
So one woman approached me and said, whoever runs doesn't really affect our lives. No? We're poor when they're running, we're poor when they're sitting in their office, and we'll probably be poor once they leave office. And it really encapsulated to me why there would be a disconnect between the populace and their government.
As a leader, he says he wants transformational change. Otherwise, political factions will just take turns at the seat of power.
Without transformational change, everything that we've struggled for and we just took our turn in the musical chairs. Right? It would be really such a ridiculous endeavor.
The advice of the most powerful man in the Philippines to leaders: be humble, because the ability to learn determines your ability to govern. Natasha Gutierrez, Rappler, Manila.
The House of Representatives passes on second reading the K-12 bill Wednesday. The bill adds 2 years to the country's 10-year basic education system to align the Philippines with international standards. Controversy hounds the K-12 because additional years mean additional costs for parents. Kabataan Party List Representative Mong Palatino opposes the, quote, rushed approval of the bill. He says the infrastructure is not in place and the effectivity of the new system is not proven. Reproductive Health Bill Principal Author Albay Representative Edsa Lagman announces a new list of amendments to the controversial measure Wednesday. Lagman says this is a result of the latest round of consultations to address its critics. He says the amendments, quote, do not dilute or destroy the essence of the original bill. The list of amendments include the following: public access to information on reproductive health services that do not prevent implantation of a fertilized ovum, prioritizing the needs of the poor who will be voluntary beneficiaries of reproductive health care, funding support to modern natural methods of family planning, promoting openness to life, no demographic and population targets, family planning services which include making women aware of fertility cycles, quote, sexuality education to be conducted with deference to cultural, religious, and ethical norms of communities, flexibility in sex education to be accorded to sectarian schools, and the Philippine National Drug Formulary will be updated with modern family planning supplies. South Korea says it will begin a large-scale military exercise next week to counter threats from North Korea. The week-long exercise beginning October 25 will involve 240,000 Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps personnel. A Defense Ministry spokesman says the exercise will feature drills against infiltration, regional provocations, or all-out war by North Korea. Hostile relations between the two countries deteriorated further after Seoul accused Pyongyang of torpedoing one of its warships in March 2010. Well, let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 5, wearing a military vest over a white tunic and a white turban on his head, the confessed mastermind of 9/11, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, accuses the U.S. government of sanctioned torture in the name of national security. Known by his initials, KSM also compares the scale of the terror attack that killed nearly 3,000 people to the, quote, millions he claims were killed by America's military. At number 6, a Bangladeshi man with alleged al-Qaeda links was arrested Wednesday for trying to use a 1,000-pound bomb to destroy the Federal Reserve building in New York City. Qazi Mohammed Rezanul Asan Nafis, 21, tried to detonate what he thought was a live bomb, but it was actually a fake explosive provided by the FBI in the Sting operation. Claiming overseas connections to al-Qaeda, Nafis allegedly tried to form a terrorist cell in the United States. One of the individuals he attempted to recruit was actually an agent for the FBI. At number 8, Afghan police arrested 4 people who allegedly tried to force a woman into prostitution in western Afghanistan and beheaded her when she refused. Officials say the mother-in-law, father-in-law, the husband, and the man who killed Ma Gul, 20, has been arrested. Human rights groups say violence against women had dramatically increased in the region recently. Another victim of violence, 14-year-old blogger and activist Malala Yousafzai from Pakistan, has come out of her coma. A New York Times reporter says on Facebook that while she's not fully conscious, she appears to have sensation in her limbs. Malala was flown to the United Kingdom after having a bullet removed from her skull by doctors in Pakistan. She was shot by a Taliban gunman on her way to school in retaliation for her blogs that criticized the Taliban. And at number 10, senior officials at Guardian News and Media are seriously considering shifting to a purely online operation despite the hopes of its editor-in-chief, Alan Rusbridger, that they could keep the newspaper running for a few more years. Owners fear it does not have enough cash to sustain the newspapers that long. The Guardian has been battling to stem losses of £44 million a year by expanding its U.S. and online operations, but gains were not enough to balance GNM's operating losses. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Twitter blocks an account for the first time after German police asked the site to restrict access by neo-Nazi group Besseres Hanover. The group, outlawed last month, is being probed on charges of inciting racial hatred and creating a criminal organization. Twitter's chief lawyer, Alex McGillivray, says the company announced the ability to withhold content in January. He adds, Twitter aims to restrict as little as possible while complying with the law. Social media once again proves it can be a channel for doing good. A Facebook wall post from a concerned citizen catches the attention of the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority. On Tuesday, Sam Sevalla asks help for Ernesto Chua, an employee of the MMDA Metro Parkway Clearing Group. Chua has a wound caused by Buerger's disease connected to the use of tobacco. It didn't take long for the MMDA to respond. On Thursday, the agency says it will shoulder Chua's medical expenses for the treatment of his wound. Chua will be on rehabilitation leave until he officially retires on December 15, 2012. Pit bulls rescued from a dogfighting syndicate escaped being put to death and are now finding new lives with new families. Catherine Visconti reports.
Meet Pam the pit bull. Just 6 months ago, she was rescued from an illegal dogfighting operation. In late May, police find her and hundreds of other pit bulls chained to fuel drums in a neglected coffee plantation. Dogfighting is a lucrative underground operation in the Philippines. A South Korean gambling ring manages the blood sport in Laguna. Matches are broadcast online and money raked in from bets abroad. Operators take advantage of weak animal rights laws. Fines are only a few thousand pesos and prison term just 6 months to 2 years. The same syndicate has been arrested twice in under a year. This time, roughly 300 pit bulls are left wounded, dehydrated, and diseased. Veterinarians prepare to euthanize them. Maria Parsons of the group CARA, Compassion and Responsibility for Animals, steps in.
You just get pulled in. You know, I couldn't turn my back on these dogs. I really couldn't. This is even back when they were still chained to the ground and living in the most terrible conditions possible. They were not aggressive towards humans. They just, you know, they'd come up to you, they'd rub up against you.
She and CARA volunteers move 170 dogs to a farm in Batangas. They construct 170 shelters from scratch. They rehabilitate the dogs with force-free training, rewarding good behavior with affection. U.S. certified trainer Francis Cleophas says love is key.
Right? You can't fight pain with pain.
This is Tinkerbell. She hides in the farthest corner of her cage when she sees a human. Francis waits 10 minutes for her to get comfortable enough to come closer. His patience pays off. Many hours need to be devoted to each dog. The end goal is to get each one ready for a permanent home. The dog sanctuary costs up to $4,000 a month to run and is completely dependent on donations. It's too expensive to keep open forever.
There have been times where we've, you know, had 1 or 2 days of dog food left and, you know, no new donations to go out and buy any.
The Bautistas say they're ready to give a homeless dog a home. Russ Bautista has taken a liking to Pam and hopes she'll be a good fit for his family. This family of 3 has their heart set on 2 dogs, both of which are bigger than their 3-year-old daughter.
That they're not vicious dogs, they're not for fighting. So we want her to set us good examples as well for her friends or her, you know, her generation.
Each week, the family comes to spend time with their future dogs. It's a success story. The odds are daunting, but CARA hopes the happy ending will be repeated over and over again. Catherine Visconti, Rappler, Batangas.
Every story on Rappler has its own mood meter. Each mood meter has 8 emotions for you to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote will come down to the middle of the front page of Rappler to the Mood Navigator, which crowdsources the mood of the day. It also places the top 10 stories which have gotten the most number of clicks, the votes on the mood meter. Today's top story, for example, Rappler's interview with President Aquino has 66% inspired and 28% happy. Aquino says he favors decriminalizing libel, 66% happy. Finally, Philippines on its way to rice self-sufficiency by 2013, 97% happy. It is a happy day. Today, most people are happy. Well, that's Rappler's Newscast for today, Thursday, October 18th, 2012. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Maria Ressa. As we say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.